Welcome to Captive Audience. I'm Suni Danforth, and I have been gone for a little bit, and it's good to be back. I had a nice break. But, the news carries on. It keeps coming, whether we're here or not, whether we choose to watch it or we don't. Things are moving on, especially with the Trump administration. But I'm going to start tonight right here in Florida, or not Florida. That's where I went on holiday. Sorry, my mind, that was a proverbial slip maybe. Here in Oregon. And I just received this. It came in the mail. This is from Oregon Catalyst, Oregon Taxpayer Association of Oregon. I got these 2 pages in the mail, and I've gone through this huge stack of mail. And these are worth talking about because, hi, Lori, nice to see you. It's nice to be back. Whenever I'm looking for things that I want to talk about, I always go to Oregon Watchdog, because they pull a plethora of articles from all sorts of news sources, agencies, and whatnot. And they always have good information. They also reach a lot of Oregonians. It's a group that I donate to. I'm going to give them a plug because there's a couple of real big things that I'm going to talk about tonight that they have brought to our attention. And so in this, it's a quick guide to the 2025 legislature. And because of one-party rule, bills move faster and with less notice. So things are cranking up. There's 2 good bills, only 2. Sad to say. And when you look at what's going on in Oregon in the legislature, it's so apparent that the Democrats hate Oregonians. To me, this is my opinion. Take it or leave it. I don't really care. But it really appears to me that they don't want what is the best interest of Oregonians. They want whatever they can do to pad their pockets, help their other constituents pad their pockets, and promote a one world order, or one Oregon order. The Democrats have been in charge here for over 30 years, and it shows. It absolutely shows. We're the number 1 state at the bottom of education. We're the highest. We pay the most for education of any state, and we're at the bottom of the list. We've got so many homeless here, and I'm going to cover that a little bit later. But when you start looking around at what's Oregon doing that's so good, I'm not finding a lot, and it's really sad that way. But 2 good bills: cutting the death tax, that might actually pass, and reducing the corporate activities tax, that might pass as well. There's like 3 Senate bills, because the CAT tax revenue, it taxes revenue, not profits. And that has driven away a lot of business here in this state. It has killed, it's hit the slim profit margins in healthcare, grocery stores, restaurants, and it's really destructive. And there's only 4 other states that are doing this. It's not a good thing. Now, there's lots of bad bills, a lot of bad bills. They're wanting to, with a Senate Joint Resolution, which is Senate Joint Resolution 30, House Joint Resolution 3, and House Joint Resolution 11. These bills make it harder for us citizens to put measures on the ballot by radically increasing signature requirements by 25% for law changes, by 33% increase for constitutional changes. And Senate Joint Resolution 30 also makes a new scheme mandate that signatures must originate equally from 6 Oregon districts, which only drives up the cost, will avoid thousands of legitimate signatures because they happen to be in a fabricated signature surplus location. Now, I did have a senator reach out to me sometime back in the past month-ish or so and said that, well, instead it's making them get signatures across the state instead of just over in Portland, or Washington County. They have to get them elsewhere because some of our most egregious things that have gotten onto the ballot measures that have made the ballot, that have been by paid signature gatherers from outside money, it's a petition I've never even seen over here in the east side of the state. So that I kind of understand that, but yet I don't. I don't get it. I don't think so. So I'm not a supporter. So that's those. A huge one is this kicker bill theft, number one, and it is Senate Bill 573. This, and I've got a link to that because it is, let me post that in the comments there. It's just super egregious. Here we go. And so the lawmakers are looking to steal the kicker refund by force, and it's House Bill 1177. And last week, there was a huge pileup of legislative bills to meet the deadline, because if they didn't roll out of their original committee, they would die. So, and the rollout of 1.9 billion transportation package was a very, along with that, was a very devious bill to raid the people's kicker. Senate Bill 1177. A hearing was held in the Senate Committee on Finance and Revenue, and it would steal the current kicker, which has amassed over 1.1 billion, with a B, billion dollars in over collected surplus taxes in the current budget cycle. By Oregon constitutional law, over-collected surplus tax funds must be returned to the taxpayers who paid it. Current estimates has your kicker tax refund at around $600 on average. And taxpayers would be able to collect it during next year's tax season. But, and because the voters put this amazing kicker refund law in the constitutions, so politicians wouldn't be able to steal it, it requires a vote of the same people to change it. Except, there's always a but, right? Except for an emergency-like provision where if lawmakers amass a 66% of the vote, under a 66% vote margin, politicians can amend the Constitution without voter approval. Since politicians know that we would say no to losing the kicker refund, the politicians plan to shut down voter dissent and just take the money with Senate Bill 1177. And it would steal the people's kicker and put the billion into a wildfire slush fund. And our lousy governor, Lion Tina Kotek, she has, said, oh my gosh, last budget, we saw a huge increase, but we don't have the money to fund wildfires. Yes, they do. It's about your spending priorities. When you end up with, in one budget cycle, a $1.1 billion surplus, the problem is not the income, the problem is the spending. So they would like to take this money that is ours, that should be returned to us, but they want to put it into this fund, and then by golly, they will be able to help pay for fires with the interest. Well, hello, they're not even fixing PERS. The politicians and our governor, and I'm talking about the politicians on both sides, don't give a rip about the Oregonians. They don't. So by assembling a 60% vote threshold, all they need is 2 Republican senators and 2 Republicans in the House to pass Senate Bill 1177. And so the vote margin won't be hard, but with $1 billion being stolen and put in a slush fund, anything could happen. Right now, as lawmakers claim, I'm reading from this article because it's a good article. Right now, as lawmakers claim they have no money to fight fires, they are considering a bill to give Hollywood film companies $28 million in tax breaks, I guess so they can make movies in Oregon. A bill to cost nearly $50 million, giving all government workers a work-free holiday with the Lunar New Year. That's so important. A bill to spend $10 million of tax dollars for a private Portland mega restaurant. A bill to raise through tax gimmicks $800 million for a baseball stadium. A bonus of $8 million to art programs. Free food stamps for non-citizens. Free breakfast and lunch for all students, even subsidizing our richest neighborhoods. And free mini fridges, air conditioners, and cooking classes using Medicaid money meant for hospital bills and surgeries. So just this one article shows you they don't care. So lawmakers are floating $1 billion in misspending projects and are not even looking to control spending to fight the waste, fraud, and abuse. We have no Doge here in Oregon. Oregon Watchdog and Oregon Taxpayer Association would be the equivalent of a local Doge effort. They really try to fight the corruption and whatnot. And so I'm asking you to share this article, warn others, email it, tweet it, post it, like it, print it, blog it. And so that was in this that I, as I was going through my mail and looking to see, this here is we've got to talk to our representatives, be loud, be firm, and tell them no and hell no. The kicker's ours. It's not theirs. They need to take control of their spending. And, but this is what happens. And it's so much easier in Oregon when you have the Democrats have a supermajority. They can do anything they want. They need 2 Republican senators, and believe me, they will get them. And they need 2 Republican House members, and they will get them. Because they will be rewarded with money in their district. That's how it's done. That's how it's been done here in Oregon. And they'll do somebody like, I don't know, maybe Greg Smith, feels pretty safe in his district. He often crosses the line and votes with the Democrats. So, and there's others. Pat Finley, who I like a lot, has done the very same thing. He's actually, I think it was, I don't remember if it was, shouldn't say, but it was either the cat tax or another bill. Then he had voted with the Democrats. And it's a shame. It really, really is a shame. So, other things, let's see. They're going to, Senate Bill 712 pushes for a 3% property tax increase every year. It pushes more property owners to pay the maximum 3% increase every year on the assessed value of their property. This would cost some property owners thousands. I would be one of those. You know, and I truly feel like if you are not a property owner, you shouldn't get to vote for that. Why do people that pay rent get to vote for property tax increases? And because they don't put it together. Even when they pay rent and they approve this, oh yeah, let's have more taxes, more free stuff, right? We're going to get more free stuff. That's why their rent goes up. It's all relative. So what else is, lets as many as 18,000 Oregon sex offenders go unregistered. That is Senate Bill 820 and Senate Bill 821, because, oh my gosh, we've already got something like 18,000 here in Oregon. We are the #1 state. Oh, it's so proud. #1 with the highest number of sex offenders in the state of Oregon. And we just don't have the money to require them to register, these rapists and sexual predators. So we're just not going to make them. That's a lie. It's a lie. Gas tax is going up, 4% tire tax. For non-road expenses, gas tax is going to could be as high as 35 cents a gallon. There's so many good things. Food stamps for all non-citizens, I mentioned that. A drink tax. This places a 5-cent tax, not the same as a deposit, on all soda, water, juice, beer, wine containers to pay for fighting fires, all in the name of fighting fires. Let me tell you, it's a load of crap. It truly is. And one of the worst, provide unemployment benefits to workers during a strike. Senate Bill 916. So there's a lot. There's a lot of things. And they have some pretty good cartoons in here. Did you know that 2 photos tell a vital story? Portland set up 160 homeless pod homes. The cost of operating the mass housing was a whopping $3,000 a month for one single pod. Hello, you could put them in an apartment for that. They wouldn't necessarily be in Portland, but you could put them in an apartment somewhere in Oregon. I guarantee it, for $3,000 a month. This is twice as expensive as regular rent, and yet Portland calls it a success and may be building hundreds more. And you know what that is? That is the homeless cartel. I'll call it the cartel. And in fact, I have a story here on that. The homeless, Portland's a sanctuary city that attracts homeless from all over, all other states. Absolutely. And it's just amazing that they are doing that. You know, it's I had a story and I just killed it. So I don't know. I'm not able to post it now. Too bad. We have a temporary little bit of good news. Measure 114 remains tied up in court after the appellate ruling, and lawmakers are eyeing more gun control bills in Oregon. And again, this is this is from KGW8, but I did pull this out of Oregon Catalyst. They always pull some good articles. So I'll put that up here for you. And so 2 Harney County gun owners have petitioned the Oregon Supreme Court to readdress Measure 114's recent ruling, as some lawmakers work on 3 gun control bills. Oh, yeah, they just want to make it worse. They absolutely want to make it worse. So you've got some bills that are House Bill 3076 would lay the groundwork for a state licensing program for gun dealers. If it's approved, gun dealers would eventually have to be licensed by the State Department of Justice. Those licenses would be good for 3 years, and the Department of Justice would have to do an annual inspection of the business and impose penalties for violation of the law. Of course, it's growing government, and it's also infringing on your rights, our rights as law-abiding citizens. None of these things help do anything to curb any gun violence whatsoever. And so, Oregon is working fervently to do everything they can to thwart a lawful citizen from getting a gun or using a gun, possessing a firearm. And it's really, it's not surprising. Senate Bill 243 would impose a 72-hour waiting period on gun purchases. It would also ban rapid-fire activators like bump stocks. And House Bill 3075 sets up the enforcement mechanism of Measure 114, essentially preparing for implementation if the measure clears all of its current legal hurdles. And this week, Washington State Senate passed a bill, House Bill 1163, that would require aspiring gun owners to qualify and buy a permit before being able to purchase firearms. And it's a shame that the Oregon Supreme Court said, or the appellate court said, no, this is, Measure 114 is constitutional for Oregon, or, following Oregon's constitution. I don't believe it for a minute. And I'm sure you don't either, because Oregon's gun laws are actually more lenient than our Constitution. They're very good, and it's a shame that this passed. And so we'll have to wait. So right now, it's tied up in court. It doesn't look like it's I'm not a lawyer, so don't, follow me for legal advice at all. I'm going to say that it's not in effect. And, our governor, Leontina Kotek, she has told the U.S. Education Department that she's not changing how we work in Oregon. Well, we're at the bottom of the barrel. The teachers don't have to qualify they don't have to have certificates to teach in the state of Oregon. There is no rules to graduate in the state of Oregon any longer. We're at the bottom of the barrel. And and the governor wants to, make a name for herself, get some brownie points from the Democrats. I'm going to fight the governor, or fight the president. And it's not doing anything to help the students in Oregon at all. But remember, while the legislators are crying, oh, we don't have money to fight fires, they set aside something like $30 million to take on the Trump administration and take on the federal government, essentially. And so, she's puffing her chest, and by golly, we're going to defend DEI in schools. That's a lose-lose situation for everybody. It really is. But I don't expect anything better out of our governor, sad to say. And because I, for one, like what Trump's administration is doing in every aspect of what they're doing, from Doge to the tariffs to the Department of Education, what's happening with the DOJ, the illegals getting the heck out of getting deported, arrested and deported. I voted for all of that. And I know a lot of our listeners did too. And I'm all for school choice. We have to do something to turn America around, because you cannot continue the same status and expect things to change. That's what's called insanity. And but Katina Kotek says, no, I'm going to fight you. Well, I believe that she'll lose. I believe that she'll lose funding. Also, you won't I couldn't believe when I saw this story that came. I can believe it. I got this out of PJ Media. An Oregon town defies Trump on trans child mutilation. Okay, can you guess what town? Can you guess? It's Corvallis. The Corvallis City Council has declared itself a sanctuary for radical transgender ideology, defying Donald Trump's executive order to ban the medical castration and grooming of our youth. Corvallis, Oregon. Hooray! Hooray for them. And and it's such a shame. It is such a shame. And along with this, it's almost comical, because today I'm trying to find the story really quick here, that the UK today voted to the UK Supreme Court said today that a woman is defined at birth, their gender at birth. Trans people don't have any rights. Not as a So in the UK today, it happened, said that because men pretending to be women were saying, we need women's rights and we need to be, realize those rights. And the United Kingdom Supreme Court today said, no, you don't. You have a man's rights. You don't have a woman's right to be in anything, to be in their sports. You don't have a right to be in the women's bathroom. You don't have a right to invade women's spaces. And yet the UK is doing so many things backwards. I was shocked at their Supreme Court defending women. I'm not kidding, because here in the UK, they've got the thought police. You'll get a ticket if you are thinking that, if you're silently praying outside of an abortion clinic, or you are thinking, if you meme for your tweets, you could go to jail in the UK. But yet the Supreme Court upheld the fact that a woman is defined by their gender at birth. Hooray! That's a big win for women in the UK. And yet we have a Supreme Court justice sitting on the bench today that is a woman and could not define a woman at her hearing. I saw a replay of that today, And I was, I mean, it's only common sense. It's only common sense that I'm a woman and I can define a woman. It's not rocket science, and you don't have to be a biologist either. So, yes, Lori, I see that. I've heard stories about the potential of the UK even arresting US tourists for things they post on social media. Yes, your social media will be used against you in many countries, not just the UK. So be careful where you travel. But, it's so sad that here in Oregon, I feel like it's circling the drain. That's just me, I feel like it's circling the drain, and it's a shame. And I keep wondering how much more the people are willing to endure before they'll vote for some real change. And I think it's a lot. I think because there's a lot of people that just don't have any idea of, oh, here's that story. Men who identify as transgender, I'll post that, are not women. The UK Supreme Court rules. And, and that's a good thing. And I look forward to our Supreme Court finally getting the Title IX cases in the Supreme Court to protect women. I really do. It's crazy, crazy, crazy. It's a victory for women in Scotland that won the battle, and so it's a very good deal. So I want to also talk about, this is my last story for Oregon, and Bonneville Power. This is out of the East Oregonian, and Bonneville Power and Umatilla Electric are celebrating a new substation. And some of you might have heard about the Boardman to Hemingway transmission line. Well, this new substation is the west end anchor for the western end of the Boardman to Hemingway transmission line. And so yesterday they did a ribbon cutting, and it's a big celebration for this high voltage energy transmission substation that is built in Boardman. And I have been to several meetings regarding this, and I know people that have been fighting this and are still trying to fight this getting built to no avail. And many people have said, oh, but it's going to bring power to Oregon from Idaho. But actually, it isn't. It's taking Oregon's power to southern Idaho and probably eventually to California, which would be bypassing, because there's a rule that there was some rule about Oregon's power can't go to California, but they're going to do it through a roundabout through Idaho. And well, people would go, well, gosh, that's not a bad deal, right? Well, this opens up this area where I live in the northeast part of Oregon, Morrow, Umatilla County, Baker County. It opens these counties up for more so-called green energy. Okay. And this green energy you can envision is wind turbines and solar panels. So there's a lot of these projects that are waiting in the wings until this happens, until that transmission line all gets put in. And this is just a substation. It's a it's a substation that they're celebrating is in right now. So it's higher power, lower emissions. So they're saying it's going to help move power around the region, akin to a highway on ramp and off ramp. But Umatilla Electric said this is a large off ramp. And Umatilla Electric will take this off ramp and build the county roads, the main arteries, and get into the neighborhoods and industrial parks. Well, actually, they're going to be tying in a lot of so-called green energy projects into this transmission line. And they're saying, we need to have more low cost, they say low cost power. Well, it's not. Hydro, nuclear are low cost powers. Solar panels are great when they are at point of use, like on your roof, not through transmission line. There's so much power loss, it's ridiculous. But anyway, this now they're saying it's has the capacity to connect 2,500 megawatts of new generating resources. The substation connects to a 500 kilovolt transmission line, as well as numerous 230 kilovolt lines. The demand for reliable, affordable power and transmission service is increasing in communities across the region. That's true. You have to have power to have the data centers that are getting built in Eastern Oregon. You must have power. But remember, this power is leaving us, leaving Oregon and going to Idaho. So it says, the demand for reliable, affordable power and transmission service is increasing in communities across the region, just as it is here in Umatilla and Morrow counties. Meeting this demand is going to require large-scale grid expansion. And despite the scale of the project and record use of Umatilla Electric's resources, more broadly, the company lowered its carbon emissions by 65% in 1 year. Now, that's important because our former governor, Comrade Kate, had imposed that utilities, especially smaller utilities, all utilities that operate in Oregon have to reduce their carbon emissions in a lot by it's something like, I don't know if it was 2030 or 2050, to where they have to be lowered a lot. So Umatilla Electric has done this. And you go, well, gosh, that's pretty good, right? And they're focusing on renewable and carbon-free power. Morrow and Umatilla counties are seeing increases in power generation through wind and solar. And a Morrow County Commissioner, Jeff Winholz, he's also a board member of Umatilla Electric, which I'm going to say could be, I wonder if that's not a conflict, said tens of thousands of acres in Morrow County are dedicated to solar energy. Tens of thousands of acres. And they need transmission and substations in order to get the renewable energy that's being generated in this county out. That's why they're celebrating. And the Boardman to Hemingway transmission line is truly about the wind and solar energy that is going to be developed in Morrow and Umatilla counties. They would rather take high-value farmland and putting solar arrays on that where we would graze cattle, where you might farm, and put these giant solar arrays And for me, I would rather produce food because we can produce electricity in a much smaller footprint. Our president of the United States has said we're going back to coal. There was a Boardman coal plant, but they have destroyed that. Comrade Kate, our former governor, shut it down, said there was going to be a liquefied natural gas energy plant built in its place. And then she says, nah, we're not going to do that. And we're going to destroy the smokestack. And that coal-fired plant, energy plant that we had, was clean, clean, clean. But because of the restrictions here in Oregon for the environmental air quality restrictions that Oregon put on, the coal-fired plant said it's not even worth making any other further adjustments. It won't pencil. And our state, Comrade Kate and Lion Kotek, they have the agenda of killing any real good, reliable energy sources here in this state. And reliable is what we need. The data centers need reliable electricity. Did you know that they buy hydropower? They buy their power at hydropower rates. And then we get stuck with intermittent power and brownouts. And it's not affordable. It's a lie. And so I just wanted to talk to you about that because it's, oh, we're celebrating, but you know, tens of thousands of acres in Morrow County are dedicated to solar energy. And I guarantee you all of that development is definitely making some people really wealthy on our backs. It costs us in this state, and it's costing us money. It's not cheap, and there's nothing green about it. So I just wanted to go over that one. Now I have some good news. I do. I honestly do have some good news. If you are not watching the news, you know, I love this Maryland senator who went down to El Salvador, and it's like, hello, this is a typical senator going, I'm going to go down somewhere else and they better let me see this guy. Well, you have no rights in El Salvador. They don't care who you are. You're not getting him a phone call. You're not going to meet with him. You have no rights. You're an idiot. But it's all for bravado. Don't be fooled. It's all for bravado. You know, Trump has signed an order barring illegal immigrants from receiving Social Security, and that is today. These taxpayers-funded benefits should be only for eligible taxpayers, said Caroline Levitt and press secretary. You know, I voted for all of this, and I bet a lot of our audience did too. Maybe not all of our audience, and that's okay, totally okay. But this is a story out of Epic Times, and this is good. There is so many good things that Trump and the administration is doing, but Congress has got to act. Congress has to codify it. And that is what we need. So he signed this yesterday on tax day, directing several federal agencies to take measures to prevent Social Security payments from going to ineligible people such as illegal immigrants and fraudsters, saving us money. That's what it's about, right? Go, Trump, go. He also signed an order to move the federal offices outside of Washington. Says, no, the White House said the order will help empower agencies to move closer to the people they serve. Bring it on. Bring it on. I'm all for that, especially when we're learning that the office buildings, here you have some office buildings and nobody's showing up, and they even have a kitchen, and every day they still have to make food. Wasting, wasting, wasting. They could be feeding homeless people there, feeding the needy. Let's give a hand up and help the needy. I don't mean all the drug dealers, or and that there are people that are in need, that don't want to help themselves, but let's help those that do. I'm all for that. Let's help those that want to help themselves. So this is going to be, I think this is a good deal. This is going to save so much money. He says that the American people are spread across more than 3.8 million square miles in urban, suburban, and rural areas. The executive order states, to provide the highest quality services in an efficient and cost-effective manner, executive departments and agencies must be where the people are. And actually, his order rescinds two long-standing executive actions issued by President Jimmy Carter and Bill Clinton that required the federal government to locate their office space in central business districts. And so this is a good thing. I'm very, very, very glad. More good news. Another huge win. This article is out of PJ Media, and a huge win for the American people and free speech. Marco Rubio, our Secretary of State, he shuts down a controversial State Department office. What office is it? Well, he shut down today. He announced today that he's going above and beyond to continue protecting the free speech of every citizen in the United States. Something that State Department wasn't doing previously. And as a matter of fact, the State Department's counter foreign information manipulation and interference had actively silenced and censored voices of Americans they were supposed to be serving, particularly conservatives. And we were paying at least $50 million a year for it to do so. But today, Marco Rubio has now shut it down, placing 30 full-time staff members on leave, eliminating all 50 full-time staff positions, and letting Congress know that it no longer exists. So there's no need to keep pumping taxpayer dollars into it. I love it. I love it. And Rubio issued the following statement on protecting and championing free speech at the State Department. And he said that freedom of speech and expression have been a cornerstone of what it means to be an American citizen. For centuries, the United States served as a beacon of hope for millions of people around the world. Over the last decade, though, individuals in America have been slandered, fired, charged, and even jailed for simply voicing their opinions. That is not an America our founding fathers would recognize. It's the responsibility of every government official to continuously work to preserve and protect the freedom for Americans to exercise their free speech. That is why today I'm announcing the closure of the State Department's Counter Foreign Information Manipulation and Interference, formerly known as the Global Engagement Center. Under the previous administration, this office, which cost taxpayers more than $50 million a year, spent millions of dollars to actively silence and censor the voices of Americans that were supposed to be serving. This is antithetical to the very principles we should be upholding, and it inconceivable it was taking place in America. That ends today. Under the administration of President Trump, we will always work to protect the rights of the American people, and this is an important step in continuing to fulfill that commitment. I loved it when I read this story. This is our government working for us, as it should be, as it should be. Not looking at us as those that have to be controlled and those that they oppose. It's a win for all Americans. Absolutely. I thought it was great. And a story out today, also from the PJ Media. Here's why you don't threaten to kill the Director of National Intelligence. And it's because a 24-year-old fella from Georgia is in FBI custody now, and rightfully so. And Alia Akbar Muhammad Armin of Lilburn, Georgia, is now in custody. This Georgia man, as the media likes to call him, was charged with transmitting interstate threats to injure Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard and her family. And so, hey, he's now in custody. That's how it's supposed to be. You get the threats off the streets. And New Yorkers cheer as ICE rounds up the same criminal illegals Democrats defend to the death. You know, the Democrats are trying to keep all these illegals that came out of mental institutions, came out of prisons, are gangs, are maybe in cartels and whatnot. They're trying to keep them here. By God, it's their voter base. Of course, they want to keep them here. But when they were rounded up by ICE, the people in the neighborhood cheered, just cheered. And that's a good thing. You know, it really, really is, when there's going, not here. We don't want these people that are committing crimes here, living next to our grandparents that are defenseless. You know, and New York has some of the strictest gun laws. So good luck there, right? So that was great news. That was from the Western Journal. Now I have one more thing I would like to share with you today that I believe is really, really important. I don't know if you have seen Tucker Carlson's interview, but I have just posted a link. He did an interview, with Kurt Weldon, and it is eye-opening. And it has to do with 9/11 and other things. Kurt Weldon was a 20-year congressman that was about to become the chairman of the House Armed Services Committee when basically he was taken out, I would say, by the deep state. Follow the link. Listen to that, or just Google it up, Tucker Carlson interview with Kurt Weldon, and listen to it. It's about an hour and 40 minutes, hour and 45 minutes. It's eye-opening. That's all I'll say. It is eye-opening. I really like the interviews that Tucker Carlson is doing, and he's brave for doing them. And he's savvy, and the people that he's talking with, this is he did this interview 2 days ago, and I just encourage you to watch it, to listen with open ears to what's said. It's amazing. So, hey, everybody, thank you for being here tonight. Like and share the message around. And thank you very, very much for just being with me tonight. I sure appreciate it. It's nice to be back. I enjoyed my time away, I will say. And hey, I'll be back on Friday. Good night.